Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Daily Talk with your host, Brandon Romero. In this episode, I will be giving you the daily talk about a certain subject, and in this case, I will be talking about the curiosity and impressive features of the human mind we also gratefully possess. You know, one day I was laying around not too long ago, and thought to myself how wonderfully complex the human mind is in nature. Like, how do we experience all these phenomena throughout our lives? And it wasn't until today that I learned the human brain is indeed the most complex organ in our bodies as I suspected. Over 100 billion nerve cells and many more contact points between them provide our brains with the capabilities that no other supercomputer can do to this day. And I mean, it is pretty understandable. Right now I'm feeling relaxed, and why? Who's responsible for it? My brain, of course. And you, the listener too, I bet your brain is responsible for everything you feel. Moving on from knowing that our brains are nature's supercomputers, they do possess attributes of being a supercomputer, as theoretically brain information can travel an impressive 268 miles per hour. Now that is way faster than the average car, bike, and even a motorcycle. Now that's fast, but despite that, many people still think that whenever you're tired, your brain tends to work more slowly and sluggish. But that might not actually be the case, as research now says the brain works better creatively and freely whenever you are tired, exhausted, and even easily more distracted. It's almost like your brain is working overtime whenever your supercomputer is overheating. But despite your brain being just fine afterwards when exhausted, it's always best to get some rest, according to the experts. Another way to showcase how truly powerful your brain is the saying you got a light bulb over your head. It might not be a sarcastic way to call someone a genius after all. The good old saying actually comes from a more scientific research-based project that shows your brain can truly light up a light bulb if you really wanted to, and if you had a 20 to 30 watt small light bulb laying around. The combination of approximately 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others, produce electrical signals in order to communicate with others. And if you took all of that energy of the small electrical currents, you can theoretically power up a small light bulb. And lastly, if you ever want to think who's behind the hard working capabilities of your brain work, you can just think the 100 billion neurons, your spinal cord, and the 85 billion non-neuron cells that constantly work overtime to make your brain the best supercomputer nature could ever provide for us humans. I think we as humans are the most blessed by having the most powerful brain out of every single organism in the world. But besides us having like amazing abilities to think, write, and feel stuff, there's also struggles and issues that you can have with your brain, such as constantly overthinking, constantly always being sad, and always being angry. These are some well-known mental illnesses, but there's some things you could do to help. Like if you're often overthinking, you could just think of the positive, as the positive often outweighs the negatives in your life. And you could also go to group therapy, or you can also start journaling your ideas, thoughts, and feelings. So whenever you look back, you could see the improvement that you've completely made. And I myself have struggled with these type of problems, but trust me when I say this, they will always get better, and your mind will always improve as time goes on, as long as you allow it. Now, to wrap up this episode, this has been the Daily Talk with your host, Brandon. You can re-listen to our old episodes on our Spotify and Apple Music channel. Just simply search up the Daily Talk with Brandon Romero, and you'll be on your way to listening to old podcasts. But for now, make sure to stay tuned for new episodes in the future.